Something hit the roof again in a muted series of thuds. Gordon put his book down and glanced at Jasmine. "You heard it this time, right?" Gordon asked. His wife paused her crocheting and gave him a kind but helpless look. "I'm sorry, love. I didn't hear anything." Gordon sighed and went back to his paperback. "Maybe we have mice in the attic. Or a raccoon. Or a serial killer." He sniffed. "Did you light a candle? It smells like one of those pine air fresheners." "Nope, no candles. Don't even joke about bats," Jasmine said, scrunching up her nose. "Weird. Maybe I'm having auditory hallucinations and nasal ones." Jasmine laughed, and the laughter turned into choking. Her eyes went wide and she reached for her throat. Gordon was out of his chair and next to her in a blink, but hesitated, not sure what was wrong. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Are you choking on something?" Shaking her head, Jasmine coughed again, then once more, seeming to recover. "I'm not sure what that was," she said, smiling weakly. "I don't think I've ever choked on a laugh before." "Let me get you some water," Gordon offered, heading into the kitchen. More thumps. 3. Then a fourth. Then a final, louder thud. Gordon looked up from where he was filling a glass from the sink's water filter, scowling at the ceiling. "You had to have heard that, didn't you?" Gordon asked. "Heard what?" "Fucking air freshener bats," Gordon muttered, turning off the tap. "I'm going to check the attic, just in case there's an animal in there." There wasn't. The only thing in the attic was the usual collection of dusty cardboard boxes, puffs of tattered pink insulation, and plastic containers overflowing with stored holiday decorations, all casting tilted shadows in the light thrown from a single exposed light bulb on a chain. "Do you have rabies yet?" Jasmine called up from the foot of the retractable stairs. Gordon did a final sweep of the cramped space with his flashlight, eager to climb down to somewhere where the walls didn't feel quite so close. "No sign of bat, rat, cat, or Matt, the local murderer," Gordon told Jasmine as he closed the latch that led to the attic. "Maybe it's the pipes being noisy." Jasmine shrugged, started to speak, then got caught in another coughing fit. She recovered quickly and waved Gordon away when he offered to fetch water again. "If I get any more hydrated, I'm going to have to sleep in a diaper. Let's call it a night. I'll keep my ears open for your mystery bumps." That night, for the first time in his life, Gordon experienced a bout of sleep paralysis that left him wide-eyed and frozen on the bed. He'd woken up suddenly from a dream he couldn't remember, tried to turn to check the time on his phone on the nightstand, and found that he was unable to move a muscle beyond a slow blink and a shallow breath. The terror was immediate and overwhelming, a panic attack trapped inside a locked box too small to contain it. Gordon tried to call out for Jasmine, but only a soft wheeze escaped, drowned out by the artificial raindrops hissing from the sound machine in the corner. The room was dark, and the sensation of trying to sit up and being unable to move made Gordon want to scream himself sick. It was hard to breathe, like the air in the bedroom was stale. His panic managed to find a new, higher gear when he had the thought that he might be having a heart attack. What if this is what dying feels like? He wondered. As suddenly as it arrived, the paralysis was gone, driven away by the booming sounds like wolves hearing thunder. Gordon sat up with a gasp loud enough to wake Jasmine. "Gordon, what's wrong?" she asked. He sat rigid, shaking, unable to answer. Jasmine repeated her question, and he let out a long breath. "I'm all right, love." "Did you have a bad dream?" Gordon tried to smile. "Something like that, Yeah. He was glad for the darkness and how it hid his trembling. There had been a dream, a vivid one that ended when he woke up and couldn't move. But Gordon couldn't remember much about the contents. Only a bright light, the tapping of metal on glass, and a sinking sense of dread. Gordon felt Jasmine take his hand. Must have been a heck of a... Jasmine trailed off in a strained wheeze, squeezing Gordon's hand hard enough to hurt. "Jazz?" Gordon asked. "Are you okay?" She coughed, cleared her throat, and coughed again, but eased her grip on his hand. "I'm okay. Something caught in my throat," Jasmine managed. "Could you get me another glass of water?" "Sure. I'll be right back." Gordon hurried to the kitchen, barking his shins off the low coffee table in the dark living room, not bothering to flip on the lights until he was at the sink. He blinked when light flooded the room, squinting his eyes shut to fumble for a drinking glass. Startled, Gordon dropped the glass. He winced, waiting for the sound of it shattering on the tile, but it never came. Gordon opened his eyes and looked down at the floor, expecting to see shards of shattered glass all around his feet. The tiles were clean and clear. A sudden, strangely familiar sense of unease crashed into Gordon. His pupils shrank, his hands resumed shaking, and his breath came faster and faster. "Slow. I gotta hop." Gordon whipped his head around, looking for the source of the muffled voice. The speaker sounded close, but oddly distorted, like their voice was coming from a radio wrapped in cotton. "Who's there?" Gordon shouted, eyes darting around the bright kitchen, then over to the still dark living room and hallway. The sound was coming from the front door. Gordon moved through the living room slowly, pawing at the switch on the wall, unable to find the light. When he glanced back, he saw the kitchen had gone dark. Navigating to the door by memory, Gordon stopped and listened. There was something coming from the other side. It was too soft for him to hear, so he pressed his ear against the rough wood. "Buddy, you gotta slow down," the voice said clearly. "If you keep panting like that, you're gonna use up all your air." Gordon kept his ear to the wood, confused. He fell back. It felt like the impact against the door was enough to rattle the entire house. There was a softer sound after, a gentle tap-tap on the window nearest the door. Gordon stood up and looked toward the tapping, but couldn't see anything in the dark. Then, a blinding light shined through. "Have you had anything to drink tonight, sir?" It was that voice again, the same one from the kitchen and from the other side of the door. Gordon knew that voice, but he couldn't place it. Only the feeling hearing it inspired. Dread. "Gordy?" Gordon turned to see Jasmine standing in the hall, illuminated by the light coming in from the window. She was wheezing again, clutching, then clawing at her throat. "Jazz!" Gordon shouted, trying to run to her, but he found he couldn't move. The light from outside cut off suddenly, and everything around Gordon went black. He reached out towards Jasmine, but his hand hit rough, splinter-filled wood. "How are you doing in there, Gordon?" the voice asked from above. Gordon remembered where he was. He remembered everything. Slowly at first, and then too much, too quickly. Gordon began to scream. They'd been driving home from dinner when it happened. Gordon ran something over in the road, and all their tires went flat at once. Did we drive over some nails or something? Jasmine asked as Gordon pulled off to the shoulder. It was night, and the back road they were taking as a shortcut was narrow and empty. Maybe something fell off a truck, Gordon suggested. Fuck. Do you remember if our AAA's up to date? I think we might need a tow. Before Gordon could open his door, there was a tap-tap on the driver's side window that made both of them jump. White light shined through the glass, making them both squint and turn away. Good evening, folks, a pleasant voice said. Are you all having some car trouble? Yeah, Gordon answered slowly. I think we have a flat. Would you mind turning off that flashlight? The light lowered, but did not disappear. All Gordon could see of the speaker was a tall silhouette. Looks like you might have more than one flat, I'm afraid, the voice confirmed. Bad luck. But here's a little good luck for balance. My name's Trooper Lewis. I'm with MSP. Let me call this in real quick and see if we can get you some help. Thanks, officer. We appreciate the offer, Gordon said. But we got AAA. We'll just call for a tow. The man on the other side of the window didn't speak for a moment. Then the flashlight came back up again, flooding the car. You were swerving a bit back there before you pulled over, Lewis said. Have you had anything to drink tonight, sir? Gordon held his hand up against the light. No. Well, I had a glass of wine with dinner, but... Step out of the car, please. I don't think... Sir, step out of the car, or I'll be forced to break the window. Gordon looked over to his wife. Don't, Jasmine whispered. Something's wrong. Gordon squeezed her hand. We're not going anywhere on 4 flats. But you're right. This is weird. I'll get out to talk, but you call 911 when I do. Just in case. Jasmine screamed a second before Gordon heard his window shatter. He'd taken off his seatbelt when they pulled over, so there was nothing to keep him in the car when a pair of powerful hands grabbed his jacket and dragged him out. Gordon hit the road awkwardly and tried to scramble to his feet. Something hit him in the side of the head, and he felt his legs buckle. His vision blurred. Jazz, run! He croaked. Gordon caught a quick glimpse of the butt of the flashlight before it slammed into his temple for a second time. The world went black. Gordon woke up to the sound of Jasmine screaming. He blinked. The night sky above him was crowded with stars. Gordon wasn't sure how many were real and how many were only in his aching head. He was on his back in the road, lying on the cool asphalt. Their car was still parked on the shoulder. The driver's side door was open and the interior lights were on. Weak, but enough light for Gordon to see his wife struggling with a tall, broad-shouldered figure who was trying to pull her out of the vehicle. Jazz, Gordon whispered, trying to get to his knees. Nausea and dizziness caused him to slip, and his vision grew dark again, but didn't quite go black. He was concussed and helpless, only able to watch as the man finally yanked Jasmine out of the door by her hair. She held onto her attacker's wrist as she was pulled out, throwing a knee into his groin hard enough to make the figure grunt and bend over. With the huge man's face now in reach, Jasmine followed the knee by clawing at the stranger's eyes. He screamed and stumbled back. Then, Jasmine was running, kicking her heels free as she belted down the road. Gordon let out a sigh of relief that turned into a groan as the man who called himself Trooper Lewis thundered past. Jasmine was fit and fast and motivated, but her pursuer covered 3 of her steps with every one of his. He caught up to her quickly and grabbed her hair again, yanking back viciously and throwing her to the ground. Bitch! Gordon heard the man hiss. My eye! I can't see out of my fucking eye! They weren't far away, maybe 15 yards, but to Gordon, It seemed like there was a black ocean between him and his wife and the man strangling her. Jasmine tried to scream, but it was barely a rasp. She fought and kicked and reached for the stranger's eyes again, but his arms were too long and too strong. Gordon managed to roll over onto his stomach and crawl toward Jasmine. Every time he dragged himself forward, the stars above him shimmered and swelled, then faded to the edge of a blackout, but he shook it off. Jasmine was making terrible, gasping, choking sounds, tugging weakly at the fingers locked around her windpipe. She was dead before Gordon had closed half the distance between them, but he was close enough to hear her last, coughing breath, and to see the horror in her eyes and the nothingness that replaced them. Gordon screamed and forced himself to his knees, just in time for the big man to appear next to him. "I can't see out of my fucking eye!" the killer spat. Gordon snarled and tried to stand. He didn't see the boot coming. His next memory was waking up in a dimly lit room with the worst headache he'd ever experienced. When Gordon tried to sit up, something pulled tight across his throat. He reached up, only to find that his hands had been cuffed together. There was some kind of metal collar around his throat, the type Gordon associated with junkyard dogs. A small padlock hung from the collar, keeping it closed, and a short chain connected it to a metal bolt in the wall. There wasn't much slack in the chain, not enough to even sit properly. So Gordon was forced to lay hunched while he looked around the room. The walls and floor were concrete, the ceiling obscured by shadows cast from long, flickering fluorescents. It seemed like some kind of garage or shed or small storehouse, and it was empty other than the lingering smell of oil and something saltier that he didn't recognize. Then he noticed a box in the corner. It was large, maybe 7 feet long, and appeared to be made of unpainted wood. The box was open, and a slim lid made from the same wood leaned against the wall next to it. A terrible word flashed in Gordon's mind. Coffin. Gordon struggled with his restraints, but the cuffs held, the padlock held, and the chain could not be pulled from its ring. He sobbed and screamed and shouted for help, wincing at the echoes bouncing off the walls like ricochets. Whenever he thought of Jasmine, he'd sob so hard that he threw up, until there was nothing leaving his stomach except for saliva and bile. His last fit left him bent over. When Gordon looked up, he saw that his wife's murderer had returned. The man stood just outside the column of light cast from the nearest hanging fixture. He leaned on a shovel, watching Gordon struggle. "I'm glad to see you have a little life left in you," the big man said. "And here I thought your lady friend had all the fight I was going to see." Unable to stand or even get to his knees, Gordon strained against the chain, trying to grab the killer around the waist, though his handcuffs made even that pointless. Lewis laughed and sent a kick into Gordon's side that knocked the wind from his lungs. Before Gordon could catch his breath, his captor kicked him again. Something cracked and Gordon collapsed, curling into the fetal position as more kicks rained down. Battered and barely conscious, Gordon felt the big man unlock the collar, then drag Gordon across the cold floor, lifting him for a moment before tossing him into the box. The impact caused Gordon to howl. His side felt like it was full of broken, burning glass. His scream was muffled as the killer dropped the lid over the box. The world went black. "Wait!" Gordon screamed, thrashing and scratching at the wood. Don't do this! Don't!" The killer chuckled. "Don't worry. I dug the holes close together. He'll be right next to her." Gordon punched and beat at the coffin lid as Lewis nailed it shut. The big man must have had his weight on it because the lid never moved. "Stop!" Gordon screamed, a primal sense of claustrophobia causing his sanity to flicker and sputter in the absolute dark. "You can't! You can't!" The hammering paused for a moment. "Buddy, you gotta slow down," the big man said. "If you keep panting like that, you're gonna use up all your air." Hyperventilating, Gordon felt one of his fingernails pop loose as he clawed at the coffin lid. He felt another scream bubbling up. Another wailing, useless cry for mercy. But then, Gordon remembered the look in Jasmine's eye as she died, and the scream dissolved. Instead, Gordon waited until the psycho paused between nails. "Why?" Gordon asked, his breath ragged but his voice calm. "Just tell me why." "Why not?" the man on the other side of the lid answered without hesitation. The hammering boomed in the blackness inside the coffin, until it felt like Gordon's ears would burst. He couldn't catch his breath, and it surprised him every time he found enough air to scream. Every blow of the hammer against the lid felt like it was smashing into Gordon's skull, shattering his mind. The world was noise and darkness, and it was far, far too close. Suffocatingly close. Unable to see, Gordon couldn't stop himself from imagining what was coming. A hole in the dirt, screaming into the void until he was out of air, and through it all, the splintery pine walls pressing in so tight he could barely move. Worse, though, would be the hole next to his, the one holding Jasmine's lifeless body buried in loose earth. He would never see her again, speak to her again, touch her again. They would decay together in unmarked graves, and no one would know what happened. Time lost all meaning in the black. The last, thin strand of Gordon's sanity snapped. Gordon opened his eyes. He was in his living room. Jasmine was crocheting on the couch next to him. She looked up and saw that Gordon was staring. "Take a picture, it'll last longer," Jasmine teased. Startled, Gordon looked up at the ceiling. "What's wrong?" Jasmine asked. "Did you hear?" Gordon trailed off. He looked at Jasmine's face, into her amber eyes, across the gentle peaks and valleys of her features. Gordon looked for a long time, memorizing every line and curve and shape, though he wasn't sure why. He wasn't sure of anything, except that there was something terribly wrong about the noises coming from above. But if he stopped listening, maybe, after a while, they might fade away. "Gordon? Did I hear what?" He smiled and moved closer, squeezing her hand. "Nothing. Just my imagination." Hey everybody. Hope you enjoyed today's story. This one was written by Travis Brown. You can check out the author's books on Amazon. I've actually got a couple of Travis's short story collections, and I've read through them more than once. How to Build a Haunted House is especially fantastic. I'll include a link in the description for Travis's books, and you can check them out on Amazon. Travis also posts on Reddit as the infamous Grand Theft Motto. He's got some really amazing stories on Reddit. His story, Something Walks Whistling, was actually number 2 on Reddit No Sleep for the longest time on their all-time list. So if you're interested in more creepypasta horror stories, check out Grand Theft Motto on Reddit as well. He's got some really great stories on there. This one is a cleverly disguised, buried alive story. I thought Travis did a really good job of building the story up and building up that feeling of dread as the reader figured out the twist at the end. I don't think I personally saw the ending coming until pretty close to the end. Not easy to do as a writer. Travis does a really good job of burying the lead and burying those twists so that you don't really see them coming. I've written a couple of these buried alive stories personally, and as someone who occasionally suffers from claustrophobia, I don't think there's anything more terrifying than this particular scenario. This might be the most horrifying trope of horror I can imagine. If you're interested in more buried alive stories, I'll include one that I wrote recently at the end of the video in the top right-hand corner if you want to check that out. I also did another one called Dig, which was accepted by Full Body Chills podcast a couple years back. You can find that one on their channel, their podcast. They did a really good job with that one. I got a bunch of good stuff coming up on the channel soon. There's a new Hollow's End story, which should be going up on Monday from a new character perspective. I'm also working on a new Sheriff and Randy story. I've got some longer stories coming up on the channel as well soon. A few 1 hour long stories that are really good, and there's a 2.5 hour long story that I'm really excited to share with you guys once it's ready. The long ones do take a little bit more time to put together, so I'll let you guys know as soon as those are imminent when they're going to be airing on the channel. That's about it for me today. I'll be back on Monday with a new story for you guys. Hopefully you have a good weekend, stay safe, and I'll see you on Monday with a new story. All right, have a great night.